120 Newton meters on those center hubs. These are caps. These are actually still loose, but the center bolt is 120 Newton meters. The gears are currently bolted down to the cam itself. These nuts, we haven't messed with those as of yet. They are a possibility to be able to adjust the hub, but I believe the hubs are full forward, but we'll go ahead and double check that after we rotate the engine and see what we've got. Okay, this is a second follow-up to the earlier video. I accidentally hit the side button on the camera and actually stopped it. So, all right. So now what we're going to do, there is our intake sensor cap. And so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to remove this the cam locking tool. Okay, so I'm going to first start with the 6mm. That is keeping those cams locked together. Ratchet. All right, 6mm comes into play. I'll loosen this. And from the previous videos, again, like I mentioned, make sure that this armature that goes into the intake side, it actually has the threads on the bottom. This armature, part of the locking tool, it goes to the exhaust side, does have a pass-through through it, so make sure that the threads are on the bottom or intake side. Again, mine with the this is a 2006 T5 white block motor, S60, so I had to use a couple of shims in order to get this bridge, if you will, or bracket bridge, over into the block or right onto here to sit level so that it wasn't skewed. So we'll definitely go ahead and hold this. Now we might be needing that locking tool again. And also I had to put a spacer nut on this bolt and this bolt going into the cams, because the bolts that are supplied with this setup as the MTC are actually just that long. Okay, it's just an adjustment. That one spacer too long in order for them to get tightened down. There's no torque associated with them, but you definitely want to make sure that they are nice and snug fit. All right, I'm actually looking for, I had it a while ago, it's a non-metric bolts. Just had it a minute ago. Is it this one? No, that's the 10mm. Okay. Let's see, where did that bugger go? Oh, there it is, hiding down underneath the pick. So for this, we're actually using the tool a 7/16. And of course, it needs the quarter drive to 3/8. All right, so here we go. There we go. On that one. And for this, we just push down on the turbo inlet tube. And we'll get this one and I'll loosen it up too. All right, that should take care of this. Should be able to get the rest by hand. Yes, indeed. And those nuts that I just used, they just were a slightly larger diameter than the bolt. And the bolt has a non-threaded portion towards the top. So they just slid right over the top. Okay. All right. Exhaust cam lock off the back. Intake cam lock just about ready to go. Off the front. Okay. And with the VVT hubs set to their fully clocked forward position, and then with the tensioner, then the timing belt put on, and then the tensioner, what we should see, and of course the cam locking tool in place, is I'll show you on the back side of these cams. All right, let's go take a look. Okay, let's do the intake side first. We'll see that, okay, we're all backed up. Okay, the intake side, unfortunately there's some wiring in the way, but this wiring harness, should be able to move it out of the way here a little bit. Hopefully not too close. All right, so now that we see that our slots for the intake are aligned parallel with the mating surfaces of the valve cover, okay, and the cam cover, and then the camshaft seat, and basically the head of the motor, okay? So those are there. The intake side has an additional notch, and that is for the, want to get this right, I've been calling it a stator, but basically I believe it's called a raster, if I'm not mistaken. I have to look that up again. Can't remember it. These guys right here. Okay. Those actually sit on top of the back of the cam. They rotate, they trigger the cam sensor, and that sends the electronic signals to the engine computer to set timing. All right, down here on the back side, we'll just get a good look at it again. Oh, sorry, hard to get in here and keep it steady. But again, we see that with the angle of the engine being slightly backward, that the mating surfaces and the cam slots are both parallel, okay, and lined up. And again, on the exhaust side, that extra notch is down in the 5 o'clock position, and that's how you can tell that you are on the top dead center, okay? So these are slightly offset, the exhaust side is slightly offset with the extra notch down towards the 5 o'clock position, and the slots on left and right are slightly below the center line of the bolt. And then over here on the intake, the slots that are left and right are slightly above center on the cam, and then of course the extra slot is at the 2 o'clock position. Okay, we are now set. Cam locking tool is off. Hub center bolts, VVT hub center bolts are torqued to 120 Newton meters. Timing belt is on. Tensioner is tensioned. And what I'm gonna do is, I'll show you where we go here, but I'll move you back up top, is down here on the crank. We're going to, I need to get the vice grips back on. We're going to Put the nut on. Don't have the flywheel on yet. Now, the one thing is, let me get this out of the way real quick. This fender liner. Get up there. Hold tight. Took the vice grips off, thinking the fender liner would hold itself, but it doesn't want to comply, so no problem. All right, go for a little spin. All right, so the one thing that I am concerned about is that this 30mm nut, without the flywheel on, it goes down and basically bottoms out on the camshaft. And let me show you the flange. It does not make it all the way to this mounting hub that contains the timing belt sprocket. And this surface is the mating hub for the flywheel, the counterbalance weight. But here's what I'm talking about. Let's go up here and look real quick at our camshaft. Okay. See, there's a little bit of... Okay, the threads go right back to that small little flange on the camshaft. And have this little space here that's part of the camshaft, part of the thread, the teeth that lock this gear in. But what I'm gonna do without putting the flywheel on, because we're gonna use as little torque as possible by hand to rotate this to check. Now, the cams themselves need to rotate 360 degrees for the timing marks. 360 degrees is actually 2 turns of the crank, 720 degrees. So the first full turn, 360 degrees, is going to bring the pin that is the locating pin for the crankshaft and harmonic balancer. Going to come around once, and that is going to be 180 degrees of the cams, and then we're going to come around a second time, and then we're going to double check our timing mark. If you haven't seen this yet, let's get you rotated up. Timing mark is this notch right on the hub itself, and that lines up with that small little protrusion from the engine block. All right, and so I'm sitting nice and even with that. It's a little too grainy. Okay, so there's your timing marks. You'll be able to see this from the top. I'm just not quite sure. Again, they say that on the cam gear, so let's see, where is that? Okay, so this timing mark on that hub falls into the valley of those 2 teeth. Those 2 teeth, then the mark on the block falls in between those. They say that there are supposed to be small little tooth markings or small little edge markings on this tooth and on that tooth. I have yet to find them. I didn't spend a whole lot of time dealing with it to try to find them, but from a standpoint of being able to see down from the top of the engine and see this, I just don't see as far as the accuracy. Being able to do it. So we're down here with the wheel off, okay? And then that timing mark, we line that timing mark up right there, okay? So let's take you back up top. Bear with me, and I'll get you back up. Positioned to watch the cams go round and round. All right. And we'll just get you zoomed in here as best we can. On these timing marks, let me see if we can. get positioned here. A better look. Obviously, since I had the water pump off, the coolant bottle and reservoir is empty. I would love to sit right there with it. And I think that's about as good as we're going to be able to get. As we see the cams rotate around, let's see if we can find. Okay, our timing mark is back here. All right, so let's see if we can make a little adjustment. See if we can find a way. There's the timing mark. Get zoomed in just enough for the timing mark and the notch in the cover. Okay, notch in the cover. Just set up a background. Let's see. Get this. That's about as good as we're gonna get for right now. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get our 30 mil. Big boy. And just gonna use a 1/2 inch. I do need to get to the store and get some extensions. Able to use. We are going to be going clockwise or forward with the crankshaft, and here we go. All right. First rotation. If at any time I feel that there's not, the engine wants to basically run into itself, which is what we're trying to prevent. So we're just going to go slow with this. As the compression builds, as each cylinder comes to the top. I just love the compression. About. Get to any point where the engine does not want to rotate. We're not going to force it. We're at 270 degrees. Coming back around. Okay, that is one turn. So the cams have rotated 180 degrees now. And we're going to make another rotation with the crank. Didn't feel any spots that were too significantly difficult. All right, we're about halfway around right now. 270 degrees for the second time around. Alright. Coming up to top dead center again. Those cams should be getting close. Timing mark is almost there. Let's see. That. Okay. One more small. One small more little. Don't want to rotate it too far. Just looking at the cam. The crank right about at top. I'm gonna stop there. We're looking pretty close. Might be just a little shy. Don't want to do too much more. Just a small adjustment on the crank. And that should be it. Let's take a look. Not quite sure how we're looking up there. Let's go ahead and move you down here. Let's go ahead and zoom all the way out. We're going to take a look at our crank first. All right. Okay, there's our timing mark. Zoom this guy in. Okay. Steady for us. Let that take adjustment. Okay. There's going slightly up, slightly back, slightly forward of that timing mark, and timing mark is right where it needs to be. All right, let's see what we've got in terms of our cams. Now, if they are off, then we'll go ahead and adjust them by loosening and moving the timing belt. But looking at it right here, I'll let the light adjust. Let's get over to the cam. There we are. I've got my grid. I'm right down. Camera is level with the tooth of the cam, or the VVT hub sprocket, cam sprocket, and just right there is it's returned back into that timing mark range. All right, let's take a look. The exhaust side. There's that bad dog timing mark. I'm gonna get adjusted. Okay. Do that tooth. Timing mark on the exhaust is actually looking. So now I can see that the exhaust is one tooth off. Okay. So I like everything in terms of the intake side, but my exhaust is now should be over on this tooth here. Let's see if I can get my finger to it while the camera's still. Okay. Okay. The timing mark should actually be over here on this tooth. Okay, as we get closer to it, and it's more to the back, so basically like a tooth off. Get in there close. Okay. So what we're gonna do now is, okay, and yeah, definitely, if with my grid set up, if I come to this tooth that is forward, to the front side of this tooth, the engine side, front side of the car, to the right, that tooth right there, if we imagine the timing mark being right at the tail end on the back side of that tooth ridge, just before the valley starts, I bring that and I bring that straight up, I will be in the time mark. This one is actually, yeah, one tooth off. All right, so we're gonna proceed with loosening the timing belt. We're gonna see if we can slip it off the exhaust hub and gear sprocket. And since the center bolt is torqued already, we're gonna go through the process of taking that off. We're also gonna need to pull this crossbar. Okay. Because if you haven't seen in the previous video, okay, we're gonna leave this locked in and alone. I'm gonna need to bring my power steering forward. I'm gonna need to bring this bar forward. And actually pause, not quite sure when you went on to pause. Hopefully we'll have to review and check, but we're now gonna get busy with our tool. The first thing I'm going to do is we're gonna go ahead and remove this center cap. Again, it's not snugged in. What did I use last time? Oh. All right. So kind of a choice here. I got the T55 and a 3/8 drive, which will be fine for the small torque wrench. And then of course the big torque wrench, I use a 1/2-inch drive to 3/8 step down. And so the torque wrench is just a little bit big. Let's go ahead and find this guy in there. I don't know why it's such a hassle. There's an O-ring on these, so even though I just put them in finger tight, the O-ring tends to seal it up. All right, so cap is out. All right, here comes time. So what we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to break free the hub, and then we're gonna have to detension the belt. Let's get in here with torque wrench. Come on, buddy. Here we go. All right. Keep an eye on everything. Here it comes. we are loose. Okay. Just needs to be loose enough to be able to rotate this one tooth. So I don't actually want it too loose, because when I rotate the hub forward, I want to be able to do it. All right. So just barely loose. All right, next thing we're going to need is our 12. For our tensioner pulley. And I'm just going to loosen this ever so slightly. Okay. Because all I need to do is release tension on the timing belt. And that's enough to be able to now, when I did this before, it was kind of help if we had two people. So what I'm going to do is, let me show you. I'm going to go down onto the tensioner arm. Where is it? There it is. Okay. I'm going to go down onto this arm, and without being able to get in the way of it. Let's see if we can show you. I'm going to get onto this tensioner. We're going to pull all the way forward to loosen tension on the belt. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. That tab right there, and sorry for it, we're going to push all the way here. When it does that, it'll loosen tension on the belt. I'm going to slide the belt off of the hub. Okay, slide the belt off the hub, turn the hub one tooth forward, and then slide the belt back on. I'm going to try to keep as much tension on the belt as I can for that back hub. It's kind of a little kind of a dance of which hand works better kind of thing. Okay, tension is off the belt. Okay, I can move the belt up to the edge here. Now, what I'm going to need to do is gonna hook my finger underneath the belt. I've slid the belt off part way from the sprocket. I'm gonna get the belt right off to the edge here. Okay, I'm off. Now I'm gonna turn one tooth. I'm gonna try to get back on. Come on, baby. Oh, don't go backwards on me. Oh, stay, stay, stay. There it is. There it is. Okay. All right. That should do it. We'll double check. Things locked down there. Hub is obviously clocked forward. Let's go ahead and put this cover on real quick. We're just going to double check to see that we got the tooth moved before we go about the whole process again. Come up underneath here. Get down on our clip. There we go. Clipped on in. All right, let's take a look. Okay, double check. Timing mark for the front has not moved. We're still good. Whoops, almost dropped. Okay, timing mark is good there. Now, let's go take a look at the back. I can't see with this in the way. So what I'm gonna do, put this in here real quick. Okay, I'm gonna lift on this. I'm gonna bring the tab in inside the cover. Then we're going to rotate down in front of the hub, and we're gonna push out for that tab. All right. And then we're gonna relocate this back on to the shock tower. Coolant level sensor plug. It's part of that harness. That's what's coming out right there. All right, let's take a look at our timing mark. Now that we have room to look. Okay, timing mark now is here, and that is looking slightly forward of the timing mark, but what's going to happen in that rotation is most likely this timing mark is going to set itself back maybe just about a half a tooth, and we'll be in great shape. So those are the two options I got to live with. Either one tooth forward, so we're successful there. Again, the tension is not on the belt yet, so we're going to do that next. Okay. We'll get our 6mm Allen. In my particular application, again, white block, dual VVT, T5 motor. My tensioner goes forward towards the front of the car, not backwards. Some of the older models and the videos that I've seen show that the tensioner moves backwards in order to tension the belt. Not the case in this particular application. Okay, again, we've left that bolt the 12mm tight on purpose. Tension the belt back to center. Again, my climate, low 70s today, mid 70s if you're standing out inside the sunshine. Okay, but we'll give you a look down. We'll take it down. And for our tensioner, our adjustment's going to be right dead center in between the two prongs. All right, so that's holding there. We'll go back and torque that center bolt. Okay. To the 15 foot-pounds. And around 15. Locked in. righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Get on that center bolt right there. Oh, bring it up to 15. Okay. All right. Cam tools still in place. The next thing we need to do is come back to our center bolt for the VVT hub, and we're going to torque to 120 Newton meters. Torque wrench is already set for 120. Direction is going to be going forward. Now, before we get started, unfortunately, we do have to do this dance one more time with this wiring housing. So up, first tab over the housing, then was pulling towards the outside of the car in order to get the tab up over the top and resting on top of the timing cover. Okay, we'll go back in, find our center, and we'll get to start torquing. A couple of turns to get it to snug down. All right, there we go. All right, let's get our torque started. Go ahead and keep pressure on the torque wrench. Okay, we're at our 120 Newton meters. Okay, take the torque wrench out. Since it's not doing anything with the oil, I'm going to leave the oil cap off, or the center cap off right now. Go ahead and pull this wiring harness towards me again. I'm going to start with tucking this tab down under the cover and in front of the cam VVT hub, and we're going to push back towards the center of the motor, and the plastic housing will come down. And we'll grab our, and we'll push our push fit wires back in to there, and we're all set. Okay, timing mark's good here. Timing mark is probably going to look a little advanced on this. Both hubs are clocked forward before they were tightened. And we'll check our timing mark again. There's the tooth, there's the mark, and using my grid, that tooth now is, with everything snug now, is sitting, the timing mark is sitting basically in the timing slot that's on the cover. Okay, pick it up a little bit. Let's see, get some, gonna have those grid marks. Where's my timing mark? There she is, right at that tooth. Okay, and we're sitting right where we need to be. Okay, so that's that one tooth adjustment. All right. Let's go ahead and head on back over here. We're going to bring the, I'll put this down real quick. Going to bring the strut bar brace back up over the top.